We're here to talk about what risk really means. Not in theory, not on paper, but in the choices real people make when the stakes are real and the outcome isn't guaranteed. Risk shows up in silence, in urgency, in loyalty, fear, and hope. It shapes what we build, what we protect, and what we're willing to fight for. It's not just personal, it's deeply connected. Every calculated risk leaves a mark, and the ripple it creates doesn't just touch one life, it echoes through families, businesses, and entire communities. This podcast is about those echoes, the ones that remind us that we're not alone in the decisions we make or the weight we carry.
All right. Well, thanks for being here with us today, Kristen and Lydia. I appreciate you guys sitting down with us. Talk a little bit about the Learning Lab. We've come here to the studio today. You guys have a podcast studio within the facility, and the Learning Lab is a fairly new thing to the Wichita community, the Kansas community, if you will. Talk a little bit about what the Learning Lab is and what it does.
Sure. We're going to do this the whole time. Exactly. Learning Lab Wichita is a collaborative hub and education launchpad, if you will, for K-12 education ideas. So those ideas could be school models, school startups, people having a new idea for a learning model, coming here and getting it started. It could be members coming in and homeschooling families using the space to do their learning. It's a space where you can bring in an idea, get it started with the supportive community and the resources that we have here to support you doing it.
How did this idea come to fruition? Where did it all begin?
Yeah, I was approached with from one of our partners who helped fund the project from the beginning, Stand Together, and they are really focused on K-12 education and really focused on the question of how do we move from a one-size-fits-all education system to one that is personalized for the kids. So what we say here is we want to live in a world where every kid has an education as unique as they are. Well, for that to be true, we need a lot more education opportunities in communities, including Wichita. So the problem that they came to me with was, what would a co-working space, they used WeWork back then, what would a WeWork for education look like? And what kind of impact would it have on a community and the opportunities that were able to come to life in that community? So that's where it started. So we function very similarly to a co-working space. We have people who are long-term kind of residents who use the space as their comprehensive school model day, but then we also have members who come in and use it as they need it.
It was pretty amazing that they found Lydia because she had this background that blended business and education. And you have to have a really good understanding of both of those things to be able to kind of ideate the space. And that's literally what they did, is gave her this WeWork for education. And, you know, another analogy that we use a lot is like a shopping mall, but every classroom is, or workshop room is a something to do with education. We have school models here. We work with public, private, homeschool models. And then we also have small business owners that use our space. They're all working in the education space. We have a nonprofit that is one of our resident models. And so when you come here, you get this vibrant community. Especially I think about our homeschool families. One of the best benefits of being at Learning Lab Wichita is the community and the support. So we're just trying to help people who are doing personalized learning do it better, succeed.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about the idea, and we kind of talked about this before we started recording, the focus of our podcast being sort of this idea of risk and how it plays a role in this. This is a safe space for people to take a risk with a unique model in terms of education. Talk about how, what kind of success there has been through that and, how that's impacted, what you guys do on a daily basis.
Sure. We currently have 7 resident models, which is are the people who live here or host their models out of here kind of longer term. Those are 7 newer opportunities brought to the Wichita area. So the success of the space has been that ConLab School Wichita has brought their idea to life. Creative Minds from Wichita Public Schools. You have a public school who's taking a risk on an idea, and this is a space where they were able to get their model started. We have a homeschool community that is really growing and enhancing what they can do because they have this shared space. We have a wrestling academy. So we have all these different entrepreneurs who had this idea, and we've been able to watch them bring it to life. But I think it's also been really fun to watch all of our members, our entire community, grow the belief in themselves, the confidence of the kids, their happiness. We talk with parents all the time of just how their kids have changed because they've been able to be part of this community in one way or another.
Yeah, I would also say our membership includes different types of educators. Maybe they just want to teach a couple of classes. So they're running a little bit of a small business. And we always kind of marvel about how educators don't think of themselves as entrepreneurs. They don't think of themselves as business owners. So sometimes half the battle of getting them to innovate is just convincing them that they're capable and that they can have the support that they need to go ahead and take that risk.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. I think what's interesting too is that you guys go beyond just sort of the educational platform. Anybody in the community can actually be a member. Am I stating that correctly? That they can
somewhat.
Okay.
So we want them to have a vested interest in K-12 education. Okay. That's our ideal member. Do we create opportunities for other community members to come in and use the space? Yes. People can come in as guests. We just are very focused on this audience of K-12 education.
So tell us about an experience that's come in here, incubated, and then gone out, because that's a part of the thought
That's
process
the goal.
behind it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell me about a success story.
Well, we're not there yet. So we are working on kind of a 3 to 4 year runway. When we were doing initial research with school founders, that was kind of the theme that we heard, is it took them about 3 to 4 years to feel confident in their business design, the model of their learning, having trust built with the community of people to use it. So we're kind of replicating that timeline here. What we have seen are people growing in size. So nobody's moved out yet, but we have Creative Minds has doubled in size with a very long waiting list. ConLab School Wichita has grown in number. Our homeschool community has grown in number. The wrestling group that's here, they have lots of demand for it for next year. Our homeschool, we have a hybrid homeschool called Sunflower Learning Community. I really admire how she's kind of pivoted her opportunity, what she was shaping up as the model. She had started as more of a traditional hybrid homeschool, but was having a hard time gaining traction there. So she's really pivoted to focus on what I think is one of her greatest opportunities to contribute, which is she just has a lot of content knowledge around religious studies and history and culture. And so she's kind of fully leaned into offering classes and programs around her knowledge and expertise. So we're not at the stage where anybody's moved out yet, but we're about to do renewals. So we'll see.
Yeah, somebody might move out. Then the other thing I would say is we have seen like our business owners that come in here. We have a gal that comes in and does literacy tutoring. She's specially trained for that, and she'll come meet with her clients here. We have a gal that does academic coaching. So she helps especially like middle school age students find their confidence and get organized and set goals. So it is a great place for somebody to feel brave enough to start a venture like that and not have to run it out of your home.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think when you look around at all the people that are involved in being a part of this on a day-to-day basis? What is it about their personality or who they are that makes them want to do it this way? What do you think is consistent in them in doing that?
I'm going to give kind of a philosophical answer. Do you want to give a more storytelling? Okay. When I think about anybody taking a risk or a change, I think about the human action model. Are you familiar?
I have heard the terminology.
Okay. Well, let's just review. This is the teacher in me. Let me teach you something today. 3 parts for anybody to make any sort of choice or change. They have to have a sense of unease. They have to be uncomfortable. They have to have a vision of a better state. So the dream of what they want to see different. And then lastly, they have to believe that that vision is possible, that they can achieve it. And that's what I think all of the people who come into our space is you could ladder in their expertise, their background, their passion, their connections into that framework that once those 3 pieces click, I think they all feel this, this compulsion, like, okay, well, now I must do it because I know that I can make this vision a reality. But all of them also have a deep willingness to fail forward, to learn and grow and try again. And I don't think we encounter anybody who has walked in here thinking like, oh, it's going to be perfect right off the bat. Like, we're not going to have any struggles. And I think that's also part of what being in the space supports you with is they have our team of people to come and talk through problems with. They have other community members. You're not doing it alone, which I think is also what makes that vision a reality, right? To know it's the safe environment. It's not fail-proof, but it is something that you don't have to own all of this all by yourself in isolation. So that's what I would say. I think that's what you would see as commonalities across our members is that they understand how they can do it and what it takes to do it, but they're willing to learn and grow the entire time.
Yeah, I think a lot of our education entrepreneurs, those 3 bullets are true, but just to expand on one, a lot of them, that uncomfortable part, have experienced something in a school setting that they didn't care for their family. And so they're seeking to make a change for people they love. And that's like a really motivating factor. The other thing that I would say is that schools, traditional schools are very systemized, and so people who have been in a traditional system for a long time really aren't always coming here because they've kind of have it in their mind that it has to be this way. Our teachers that do kind of break out of that system, they are usually the people in the building that were always doing it differently anyway. They always thought that school should look a little bit different. They weren't sitting in rows of desks. They were doing collaborative group work in their class. They were doing field trips. They were trying to get out of their classrooms. And so the people that love to lecture and give tests are not the people that come here.
They would feel uncomfortable in this space in a way that would not compel them to move forward, right?
So is this model the new model for education?
We believe so. So Learning Lab Wichita is a first of its kind.
Anywhere.
Anywhere. We can't, and we've looked pretty hard to find something just like this. And we've seen a lot of places that have components of what we're doing, but we believe that we're starting a new category. So I just love the fact that we have a private school, we have micro schools, we have the public school in here, we have the homeschool community. And so I think it's really social proof that we can do this. And if we can do it in a place like Wichita, Wichita is not, we don't always think of Wichita as like the most forward-thinking, above-the-trend place, but yet we're like a capital for micro schools. We have a ton of micro schools in our city, but if Wichita can make this work, probably if you ask me the thing that most surprised me since we started this project is how easy it was to fill our resident slots. We have overfilled the building. And I thought maybe it would be easier to attract memberships, people from the homeschool community looking for a podcast studio or maker space. That's been harder to attract them here. But we really didn't have to try very hard to fill our resident spaces. So people are thinking different when it comes to what we think of as school. And I do think it takes that tension to break. I feel like I wanted my kids to have some of the cool things about high school that I had. And so to get people out of that mindset, there has to be discomfort.
Yeah. I think I fully agree with all of that. And I would add that I think the trend moving forward is one, and you see this across all industries. It's like we swung a direction where everyone wanted like the consistent standardized experience, right? I want to walk into this place and know exactly what I'm getting. Like Starbucks, no offense, Starbucks, don't come for me. But like you go into a Starbucks anywhere in the world and you're going to get exactly the same experience. And that hurt all of these very local coffee shops, right? But it's like we're having this swing backwards where people don't want to be treated as one of many. We want to walk into a space and have a unique, personalized experience and be seen. We hear that from a lot of parents, is that their kid is struggling because they are just lost in a sea of other kids, and teachers have massive workloads. And so I think that's the trend moving forward, is almost a breaking down of larger systems to be curated, tailored, much smaller experiences, and what kind of difference that can make for the kid and the family. The benefit of this space is anybody walking in here can make the experience be whatever they want it to be. That's how the building is designed. The furniture can be moved. You can write on the walls. This podcast studio is a podcast studio today, but there's nothing saying that next week we couldn't turn it into, what do we need?
A music room.
A music room, right? Like we want spaces to evolve. And I think that's what you can see in our space, is the opportunity with people who are seeing, like, these are the kids I have in front of me today, right now. So this is what they need. That's not going to be the same group of kids next year. So how can the learning design be something that can change with the kids who are coming into it, and the realities of what our community and our world needs, and the kids who are growing up? Like, what is Wichita going to need in 10 years? We don't necessarily know, but we need a lot more of human skills development versus just strict skills development. And I think you see that in all of these spaces.
So your background, Lydia, you mentioned earlier, is in education.
Education and business finance.
And those two things don't always go together.
What do you mean?
Right. They do, but they don't, right?
Yeah.
And so this was a risk for you.
Yeah.
To take.
Yeah.
In coming to this organization. Talk about the process for you in evaluating that risk, and why you chose to make the decision you did, and how do you feel about it today versus then?
Well, let's go down memory lane. I can very clearly remember calling my mom when I was working in investment banking, saying, like, it's either I become a teacher or I join the Peace Corps. And it was very dramatic responses, but it was a very dramatic reaction from a 21-year-old. But it was more that, and we've talked about this a lot recently, it seems like, I was at such conflict with my values in the work that I was doing in investment banking, that's where my compulsion to do something differently came from. I am fine taking risks for myself, calculated risks, well thought through risks. Investment banking puts you in a position of taking risks on behalf of others, and that's the part that I was like, that's not aligned with how I want to be, how I want to exist in the world. So taking the leap from that to education was a risk, but I think it was rooted along my values. I love learning. I love creating experiences. I love bringing ideas to life, which is something that I've not realized until we built this space. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can do that pretty well. But I always enjoyed that growing up. And I think that's what I was missing in kind of the business finance realm, was like the idea to bring ideas to life. And teaching lets you do that every day, all day long, if you choose to be creative about it. So when I was leaving teaching, again, it was just a conflict of values, of the misalignment of the workload for teachers and the burnout and the expectations of myself. And so that's why I left education to join the nonprofit world. So all that to say, joining this project, if you're catching the theme here, is I really move in ways that align with my values. I can feel when an opportunity, I can bring my talents and skills, like go back to the human action model. I could feel all three of those things when I was approached with the opportunity to do this. I did not think I was going to get it right. We haven't gotten 100% right, but the opportunity to continuously iterate, evolve, but staying very anchored to this vision that we want to create, I think has worked out well. So today I feel good about my choices.
I
Right.
think they hired, I don't know who else could have done. And I just really sincerely mean it. It's amazing that Lydia was charged with designing this space. Obviously she worked with architects.
I did.
But
Great people.
She really led that charge and then oversaw the construction project, again, with support. But,
I have no background in construction.
she has to do everything from manage
From
a staff to creating our pricing model to she leads our student advisory council with 8 little people or whatever. So it's just quite a combination of skill sets.
Yeah.
You said something there that I thought was interesting that I want to come back to. And you talked about values and the alignment of values. And that's an interesting way of thinking about risk and taking risk, aligning with values.
Yeah.
And it sounds like to me that everybody that is here and bringing their thoughts and ideas to the table at the Learning Lab is in that very same space. Is that is that an accurate statement?
Oh, yeah. I would absolutely agree with that. When we talk about, and I even think across our team, we see everyone in this space as a preferred partner. And we describe that as like somebody with shared vision, shared values, and the ability to contribute. They want to be part of this community and contribute in a meaningful way. And so I think across our team, you see these common themes of we were just talking about values the other day, or kind of descriptors that we would want people to describe Learning Lab and our vision with. And it was fun to see how we all did have these very similar buckets of personalization and empowerment and community building. So I would absolutely agree with that.
We talk about being values aligned a lot. And I think I always say it's lucky that our resident partners have been so aligned. But I think the project, it's like attracts like. I think the project attracted people that I also think, I'm biased, but I think the majority of people, when they get into education, have really good intentions. Of course, like there's burnout and things that happen down the road, but most people don't get into education. They certainly don't do it for the money. So,
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about your background and what made you decide to take.
Why'd you say yes?
Well, we do have a similar. I was an educator as well. I taught high school journalism, so I have a journalism degree, and I got that degree when we've all figured out that newspapers were dying, and so I decided to teach journalism.
It must have been the late 90s.
About the early 2000s. So I went into teaching, and I advised the high school newspaper and yearbook for about 12 years, and I loved it. But I was at the largest high school in Kansas, Derby, and I was making a 500-page yearbook, and it's really hard to get 16-year-olds to do 500 pages of work. And so I also just really missed using my creative skill set. So I got into nonprofit marketing, and I've worked for a couple of local nonprofits. But every job that I've had has been education related. My job right before coming here, I was working for the National Association of Secondary School Principals, and that organization also has the National Honor Society brand. And so I was traveling all over the country. I got to see a lot of different schools. But leaving teaching was not a difficult decision for me, but even though I still miss the kids.
Yeah.
But I was probably working as hard in that job as I'll ever work in any other role. But this opportunity, I think it just perfectly combined my background. One of my favorite parts of my roles here is just the community building part of it. Part of my job has to do with relationship building and our members and taking care of people. And I really like that part of it. And that hasn't really been a part of a job I've had since teaching. So I've really been grateful to kind of reincorporate that into my professional role while still using my communication skills. So it's been, seeing something from blueprint to fruition is just the coolest thing. I think everyone should do it once, because we still just marvel that we watched that whole thing happen. And, and then just seeing the actual work right in front of us. So sometimes you work for a nonprofit and maybe you're funding something or supporting something, but you don't actually get to see the clients up close.
Right.
And we see the change in kids. I mean, we opened and I don't know that we even said this earlier. We opened in September of 24. So we're about a school year and a half into our journey here. And so a lot of our kids, we have about 120 kiddos that are here, regularly. And a lot of our kids started with us, and a lot of our kids were seeking an alternative environment because they were unhappy for some reason with wherever they were prior. And so seeing a child that was really shy or really down on themselves come into the space and seeing the transformation that they've experienced has been so worth it.
Just the this sense of fulfillment that I'm sure that you guys are seeing from those particular types of experiences. Do you think that this will create a whole new generation of risk takers who are willing to go out there and say, listen, the norm is not what I'm going to participate in?
Yeah.
Do you see that? Is that
I
sort of a
believe that.
secondary goal that you may have?
Yeah, absolutely. We talk about, I mentioned human skills earlier. The way that these spaces are designed, the kids have a lot of autonomy. Their voice is heard. They let you know when they're unhappy with something. But they have such a confidence in being a contributor that I think it will be really interesting to see the long-term social emotional impact of having a personalized learning environment has on them and then the communities that they go out into. It'll be really
a
fun
great
to see.
topic for master's research. We need to get with WSU or something.
Yeah.
But I think because we're, one of our main focuses is helping kids explore their talents and interests. And that's where that personalized learning comes in because they all have different talents and interests.
Yeah.
But some of these kids who get to experience and try different things early, I think that will totally change their confidence levels and the trajectory of where they're going, which certainly would make them more apt to take a risk.
Yeah.
And the outcomes in that, in terms of innovation, I think will be immense. So, we've kind of talked about how things began. We kind of talked a little bit about where things are at today.
Yeah.
You spoke a little bit about, we've filled the space. Is more space needed?
More space would be much, much appreciated. It is much needed. What we don't know yet, because again, we're still learning as we're going, is really what that space requirement is. We don't know how long groups will truly need to be in a space like this before they're ready to move out. I think in a few years' time, while still being very cozy in here, we're going to have a much better gauge to say, okay, for this to work well, we really do need more space. But I don't think a certain size of building is going to impact the model and the success. We would love to have more models here, but I think where we can contribute also in the community at large is because we have this unique perspective of what a learning environment could live in. Now we can look across Wichita and say, well, hey, potential founder, did you know that there's a church over there that might be interested in holding space? Or there's this space or there's this, and we can see Wichita as a community full of assets to where you don't just only have to come into here to feel our support and have some of the resources that we have. How can we look broader without having to add on physical space to this building?
Well, you just provided the perfect segue. 'Cause
Sure.
The question
do
next
it.
was going to be, what does the future hold?
Go ahead, Kristen.
Well, I mean, we love Wichita. We're Wichitans. We will always have what we have going on right now here in Learning Lab Wichita in Wichita. And we're very proud that it's the first of its kind. It's the flagship site, all of those things. But we want the impact of what we're doing to extend beyond Wichita. And so we are kind of developing a network of like-minded people in other cities who have the same ideas and values that want to invest in spaces. We've had so much interest across the country from different cities. Lydia had a meeting here, and there were like 8
7 or 8 states.
8 states represented of people that either were starting to do something, wanted to do it, or were just interested in it. So some of those projects are moving forward. We hope to have an association type situation where those people will all be affiliated in some way. We don't know exactly how that will work, but it's like you said, we really do believe this is how we're going to change the face of education. Education has looked the same since the industrial age. And I want to say that school districts are trying. I mean, and some more than doing a better job than others. I always give a shout out to our local schools because Wichita Public Schools is doing a lot of innovative work, but it's very hard to change a system like that is government funded and there's all these mandates. And so the fact that they're doing the little micro school here, that it's going to keep growing, I think is a great indicator that public school districts can do it. So we just hope to continue to encourage this type of thinking across the country.
Yeah. We've definitely learned some lessons along the way that we're trying to figure out what could a toolkit, resources, what could we provide? How can we share our brain without people having to schedule time to talk with us or come to visit? What can we create that gets you started? How can we help you avoid some of the things that really hung us up? It took us, 2-3 years to get this off the ground. I don't want it to take that long for other potential incubator sites.
So really, you opened in 24, but the groundwork was being laid several years before that.
We operated out of a temporary space inside Union Station. It was about 3,500 square feet. And this is something I recommend to all these groups who've came to visit is we use it as an experimentation hub because, again, this concept doesn't really exist. And so we did different things in that space that helped us test some of our assumptions. What does it look like to host a school within a shared space? What does it look like to host programming? How can we learn about furniture? We had all this borrowed furniture, and we would watch the kids, like, what would they sit in? What would they not sit in? What do the school founders, what does she come and ask us for? Like, oh, hey, do you have a rolling whiteboard, So it just gave us a great space to keep learning as we were designing and as we were building. And so we learned a lot through that process. I joined this project November of 2022. Worked for one whole day, had my daughter, went into labor, came back in February, and by that time we had signed the lease for this property. And then we
so
took
it
it from
really
there.
pretty quick.
It did move fast.
We started construction January of 2024, January 4th.
I mean, our architects and our construction, they busted their butts to get
Shout
this thing
out to Alloy Architecture. We had Danish Karani, who is a consultant on the project. He's also an architect. And then Hutton was our local general contractor. So
well, it's an amazing facility, and I've had a chance to tour it myself. I think it's very well done, and it can be used for so many different things. I mean, you get basically a full functioning television studio.
Yes.
Right, we do. Yeah.
You've got a printer, industrial printers, and all kinds of things. So I think it's been done very, very well.
Thank you.
We have in our business, representation all across the state of Kansas. Is there interest from other communities at this point, in time
in
Kansas that are interested in replicating this model or being an offshoot of what it is that you guys are doing?
Well, we would love to start the conversation. I don't know that I have any Kansas people directly on my list, but what I want people to know and hear is when you come into our space, it's almost 16,000 square feet. It's lovely. It's beautiful. We're very biased. But what I want all of the potential operators to know is it does not have to look like this. We have some great friends over in Salinas, California, who came here last April. We had connected through LinkedIn because they had an idea kind of similar to this. So we shared knowledge. They started in a 900 square foot space doing something with the space that they had. They started doing something like this. And now they've grown into a 3,500 square foot space. But it just looks different. It's not the same scale as this, but just knowing there are spaces in your community that currently exist that if you took a creative lens to it, where could a space like this live The functionality is kind of the same. You just need a place for ideas to live and grow, some shared space for people to come in and out of, and just lots of flexibility. That's kind of the basic requirements. So I would love to talk with other people in Kansas who when you see the building, I think they might be thinking, oh, I can't do that because I don't have 16,000 square feet. Right. It's not necessary.
What I hear you saying is don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid
to just start at some point.
At some point.
Doesn't matter the size of space. And just take the risk.
Yeah.
Well, and to that point, you could, if your dream is to start a school, you can start a school without a learning lab.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
We're happy to talk to anyone in the country that wants to start a school. Pretty soon, we're going to have almost like a database of resources for those people to help them with business operations and things like that. But it just takes somebody that's willing to try.
Yeah.
So to kind of close out, give each of you give one thought about this idea of risk and how it can impact what people are doing.
I mean, this is probably a little trite or something, but I just feel that nothing easy is usually worthwhile. The most worthwhile things are difficult and are scary. It's like that idea that if you feel a little nervous, that's where you're growing. And we just see that every day in tiny ways and large ways. It was scary. I actually turned this job down when I was offered the job.
She told me no.
And I had to call Lydia back, which was a little scary. But I think, if you feel an inclination to do a big idea, there's probably a reason for that. So do it,
I like that. That's great.
I think when you know or you can feel connected to your values and your beliefs, that's going to push you in a direction of taking a risk. And it's not that you have to have I am a planner. It's very hard for me to walk into things without a perfect plan, but we need a lot more people to just get started with an imperfect plan. Get it 80% good, feel good about it, have it anchored to the values and the vision that you want to see. But going into it thinking, okay, it's going to look exactly like what I planned. It's not going to. You should think about it with the idea of what are the things I want to stay true? How does this stay true to those things? And then know that there's going to be a lot of things that shift around that. But perfection is the enemy of progress.
That's very good. We'll link in our video, folks, so that they can go learn more about Learning Lab of Wichita. But I really appreciate you guys sitting down with us and talking about what you guys are doing here. I think it's an amazing project that's come to Wichita and it's doing great things. So thank you very much.
Well, you've been such a fun friend for us to have. Thanks for coming.
Come anytime.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, thanks.